The council chamber floated in the darkness between stars, a massive ring of metal and light where 17 species gathered to discuss the greatest mystery in known space, Earth, humanity, the silent planet that refused to answer. Counselor Vreth clicked his mandibles together in frustration. His insect-like body shifted on the floating platform designed for his species. Around him, dozens of other aliens sat in their own custom seats, each one different, each one built for bodies that had nothing in common except intelligence and curiosity. And right now, fear. 3 cycles, Vreth said, his voice translated into 17 languages simultaneously. 3 cycles we have sent ships to human space. 17 vessels, 17 crews. All of them disappeared. No wreckage. No signals, nothing. The chamber filled with concerned sounds. Chirps, growls, electronic tones, and musical notes that expressed the same emotion across vastly different species. Worry, confusion, anger. High Arbiter. Kel raised one clawed hand for silence. The ancient reptilian was old enough to remember when half the species in this room were still discovering fire. His scales were dull gray, marked with scars from wars fought long before most current civilizations existed. When Kel spoke, everyone listened. "We must consider all possibilities," Kel said slowly. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Perhaps humanity is hostile. Perhaps they are primitive and cannot respond. Perhaps they are extinct and something else now occupies their space." "They cannot be primitive," said another counselor, "a being made of crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. They achieved faster than light travel. Our probes detected their quantum signatures across multiple systems. Then they are hostile," Vreth insisted. "We must send a military fleet. We must rescue our people. Or discover what happened to them," added another voice. The debate continued for hours. It always did. Every meeting for the past 3 cycles ended the same way. No answers. No solutions. Just more fear and more questions about the humans who refused to acknowledge the galaxy's attempts at contact. Dr. Hyunwoo sat in the observation deck above the council chamber, watching through transparent aluminum that could withstand weapons fire. He was human. The only human for thousands of light years, and he was tired of listening to aliens debate what his species was thinking. "They still don't understand," said the woman standing next to him. Ambassador Taemin adjusted his formal suit and checked his translation device one more time. He was a calm man in his mid-40s with gray starting to show in his hair. His face showed no emotion as he watched the council argue below. "They don't understand that silence can be a choice," Taemin said quietly. "They assume we must respond because they called. Like children who knock on a door and get angry when nobody answers immediately." "When will you tell them?" Hyunwoo asked. "Now," Taemin replied. "I think they've had enough time to show us who they are." The ambassador walked toward the entrance to the council chamber. His steps were measured and quiet. Behind him, Hyunwoo smiled. The show was about to begin. When the doors opened, every conversation in the council chamber stopped. Beings from 17 different worlds turned to stare at the human walking calmly toward the center platform. Some had never seen a human before. Others had, but only in recordings or through long-range scans. Taemin stood in the center of the chamber and waited. He didn't bow. He didn't introduce himself. He simply stood there with his hands clasped behind his back and his face neutral. Vreth was the first to recover from shock. You're human." "I am Ambassador Taemin, representative of Earth and the human collective," the man said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "I have been authorized to begin formal diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council." "Begin?" Kel leaned forward, his old eyes narrowing. "Your species has ignored us for 3 cycles. You have made no attempt to contact us. You have not responded to any messages." "Incorrect," Taemin said. "We have not ignored you. We have been paying very close attention." The chamber erupted in voices. Questions shouted in multiple languages, all of them demanding answers. Taemin waited patiently for the noise to die down. "Where are our ships?" Vreth demanded. "Where are our people? What have you done with them?" "They are safe," Taemin replied simply. "They are alive, healthy, and unharmed. They are sleeping." "Sleeping?" The crystalline counselor's light pulsed angry red. "You attacked diplomatic vessels?" "We responded to repeated violations of our territorial space," Taemin corrected. "Your ships entered human space without permission, without invitation, without even waiting for acknowledgement of your messages. Some of them penetrated 3 systems deep before we intercepted them. We were attempting first contact. Vreth's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is how it is done. This is Galactic Protocol. Tayman's expression didn't change. And now you will learn human protocol. Rule 1, ask before entering. Rule 2, wait for an answer. Rule 3, respect that answer even if it is no. Kel studied the human carefully. Unlike the others, the old arbiter wasn't shouting. He was thinking. You knew we were here all along. Yes, Tayman confirmed. We detected your communications network 47 years ago. We learned your languages. We studied your cultures. We watched your council meetings. We know your histories, your wars, your alliances, and your fears. We know everything about you. The silence that followed was heavy and uncomfortable. Every being in the chamber realized the same thing at the same moment. They had been observed, studied, analyzed, and they never knew. Why? Kel asked. Why not introduce yourselves? Why wait? Because we wanted to see who you were before you knew we were watching, Tayman said. We wanted to know if you would respect boundaries, if you would show patience, if you would demonstrate that you could be trusted. And what did you learn? The arbiter asked. Tayman looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many counselors as possible. We learned that you are curious, intelligent, capable of great things. But we also learned that you do not understand the word no, that you believe your desire for contact gives you the right to enter our space uninvited, that you view first contact as something you do to others, not with others. Vreth stood up on his platform, his whole body trembling with rage. You cannot hold our people hostage. You cannot dictate terms to the Galactic Council. We are not holding anyone hostage, Tayman said calmly. We are keeping them safe until their governments demonstrate they understand consent. Your ships violated our sovereignty. Your crews are being treated well. They will be returned when you acknowledge that you had no right to send them in the first place. The chamber erupted again. Threats, demands, accusations. Through it all, Tayman stood perfectly still and perfectly calm. He had expected this reaction. Humans had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Finally, Kel raised his hand again. Slowly, the noise died down. The ancient arbiter looked at Tayman with something that might have been respect. You were testing us, Kel said. Yes, Tayman confirmed. And you failed. Every single one of you. Not one species asked permission. Not one species waited for consent. You all assumed you had the right to enter our home simply because you wanted to. Now you will learn differently. The ambassador turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the council chamber was silent except for the sound of his footsteps. At the door, he paused and looked back. We were waiting to see who would respect our silence, Tayman said. We are still waiting. Then he left, and the Galactic Council was forced to face an uncomfortable truth. Humanity had been watching them, learning from them, and judging them. Commander Daun watched the alien ship enter human space on her display screens. It was beautiful in a strange way, all curves and glowing panels that pulsed with soft blue light. The ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of her own stealth vessel, and it moved with confidence through the dark. Too much confidence. Perimeter Defense Network confirms entry, said the officer at the communication station. The target passed warning buoy 7 without stopping. Running translation of their broadcasts now. Daun leaned forward in her chair. This was the first contact, the moment that humanity had been preparing for since they discovered they were not alone in the universe. And these aliens, whoever they were doing it all wrong. What are they saying? Daun asked. It's a standard greeting message, the officer replied. They identify themselves as the Shreath Diplomatic Corps. They are requesting contact with Earth's government. They say they come in peace and wish to establish relations. Do they say why they didn't wait at the boundary? No, Commander. They seem to assume they have the right to approach. Daun nodded slowly. It was exactly what the strategic analysts had predicted. Species that developed faster than light travel tended to be bold, curious, and often they forgot that boldness without permission was just another word for invasion. How long have they been broadcasting that message? 6 hours, Commander. It started when they entered our space, and they haven't waited for a response. They're just coming in. Daun pulled up the navigation plot. The alien ship was heading straight toward the inner system where Earth was located. Time to intercept? We can match their position in 18 minutes. Do it. Silent running. I want to get close enough to study them before we make our move. The human stealth ship adjusted course. Its hull was covered in materials that absorbed every form of radiation these aliens might use to detect it. The engines ran on systems that produced almost no signature. To the Shrieath ship, there was nothing around them but empty space. But Daun and her crew were there. Watching. Recording. Learning. Pilot. Jinho brought the ship alongside the alien vessel at a distance of only 500 meters. Close enough to see the details of their hull. Close enough to scan every system and analyze every power signature. The humans spent 2 full days studying the Shrieath while the aliens continued deeper into human territory, completely unaware they were being observed. They have interesting technology, Jinho commented. Their shields are based on gravitational fields instead of energy barriers. And look at their propulsion system. It uses quantum tunneling. Very elegant. Also very vulnerable, Daun noted. See these power conduits? If we disrupt the field generators here and here, their entire ship goes dark. Should we warn them to turn back? Asked the communication officer. Daun shook her head. They passed 17 warning buoys. Each one was programmed with mathematical sequences that spell out the same message in universal language. Stop. State intentions. Wait for response. They ignored all of them. Now we see what they do when they reach the inner system. The Shrieath ship continued forward for another week. It passed 3 colonized moons and 2 mining stations. Human vessels moved out of its path, always keeping their stealth systems active, always watching. The aliens never saw them. They were alone with their confidence and their assumption that silence meant permission. When the Shrieath ship reached the 4th planet in the system, Daeun made her decision. Launch the dampening drones, she ordered. Full dispersal pattern around the target. On my mark, activate all systems simultaneously. Drones away, Jinho confirmed. 30 seconds to optimal position. The tiny drones spread out around the alien ship, invisible and silent. Each one carried technology that humanity had developed specifically for this moment. Quantum field disruptors that could interfere with the alien propulsion system without destroying it. All drones in position, Jinho said. Activate, Daun commanded. The effect was immediate. The Shrieath ship's glowing panels flickered and went dark. Its engines shut down. Life support switched to backup power, keeping the crew alive but leaving them helpless in the middle of space. The ship didn't explode. It didn't even get damaged. It simply stopped working. Target is disabled, Jinho reported. All primary systems offline. Life support operational. No casualties. Good, bring us in. Let's collect our guests. The human crew boarded the Shrieath ship wearing full armor and carrying weapons they hoped they wouldn't need to use. What they found inside was chaos. Avian creatures with beautiful feathered bodies and colors humans had no names for. They were panicking, trying to restart systems that wouldn't respond, speaking rapidly in their own language. Through the translation devices, Daun heard their confusion. Where did this attack come from? Who had the technology to disable their advanced shields? Why couldn't they see their attackers? We mean you no harm, Daun said through the translator. But you entered our space without permission. You ignored our warnings. Now you will sleep while we decide what to do with you. The humans released gas into the ship's ventilation system. It was harmless but effective. Within minutes, every Shrieath on board was unconscious. The human crew carried them carefully to medical pods that would keep them in stasis. Comfortable. Safe. Dreaming. Then they towed the ship to a location that appeared on no maps. A captured moon on the edge of the system, hidden behind gravitational anomalies and sensor screens. The first addition to what would become a collection. Researcher Bo-Ra studied the Shrieath for months while they slept. She examined their technology, their cultural databases, their personal logs and communications. She learned their language and their history. She discovered that the Shrieath were generally peaceful, but viewed first contact as a gift they gave to primitive species. They expected gratitude for their arrival. They see themselves as teachers, Bo-Ra reported to Admiral Haywan. They believe they are helping us by making contact. They never considered that we might not want their help, or that we might not need it. Admiral Haywan reviewed the data on her screen. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes and hair that had gone white before she turned 40. She commanded Earth's defensive strategy from a station that officially didn't exist. What's your psychological assessment? Haywan asked. They're not hostile, Bo-Ra replied. But they're arrogant. They assume their way is the right way, that their protocols matter more than ours. If we had responded immediately, they would have treated us like children who needed guidance. And the others? Over the next 2 years, 16 more ships entered human space. Each one ignored the warnings. Each one assumed silence meant primitive. Each one was carefully disabled, studied, and added to the collection on the hidden moon. Bora analyzed them all. The insect-like Chitauri who traveled in hive ships and couldn't understand the concept of individual choice. The crystalline Naru who thought in mathematical equations and believed communication was a simple formula. The reptilian Solkari who had been exploring space for millennia and were used to younger species bowing to their experience. Every single one of them shared the same flaw. They came without asking. They entered without permission. They assumed their curiosity gave them rights. 17 ships, Admiral Haywan said, reviewing the latest reports. 17 different species. All of them making the same mistake. Should we wake them? Bora asked. Some of them have been asleep for over 2 years. No, Haywan decided. They came without asking. They'll wake when they learn to knock. Besides, we're learning more from them asleep than we ever could with them awake. Every ship is a library of information. Every database teaches us about the galaxy out there. The galaxy that thinks it can walk into our home whenever it wants. The Council is getting worried, Bora noted. Intelligence suggests they're considering military action. Let them consider it, Haywan said calmly. Every day they debate is another day we learn. Another day we prepare. Another day we grow stronger while they grow more afraid. Fear is a powerful teacher. It makes people think before they act. And if they attack? Admiral Haywan smiled. It was not a warm expression. Then they'll learn the same lesson these 17 crews learned. Silence isn't weakness, it's evaluation. We've been evaluating them, all of them. And so far they're failing the test. On the hidden moon, 17 ships floated in perfect rows. Inside them, thousands of aliens slept peacefully, unaware that humanity was studying their every secret. Learning their languages, understanding their weaknesses, preparing for the moment when the galaxy would finally understand. Some doors should only be opened when someone invites you in, and if you break down that door, you shouldn't be surprised when the owner is waiting on the other side. The council chamber felt different when Taemin returned the next day. The casual curiosity was gone, replaced by tension that made the air feel heavy. Every counselor had spent the night researching everything they could find about humans. The problem was there wasn't much to find. Humanity had been very careful about what information they allowed to leak. Young diplomat Min-ji walked beside Taemin, carrying a data device that contained evidence humanity had been collecting for years. This was her first time off Earth, her first time seeing aliens in person. She tried not to stare at the variety of shapes and sizes around her. Some walked on legs, some floated, some existed as pure energy contained in special suits. "You are holding our people prisoner," Breath stated as soon as Taemin reached the center platform. The insect counselor's voice was cold and controlled, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. "This is an act of war by any galactic standard." "By your standards," Taemin corrected calmly. "Not by ours. You are using your own rules to judge our actions. That is the same mistake your diplomatic ships made." "Then explain your rules," demanded the Naru representative, its crystalline body pulsing with agitated light. "Make us understand why you believe you have the right to capture diplomatic vessels." "We don't need to explain why we defend our home," Taemin replied. "But we will because unlike you, we believe in communication before action." "Minji, please show them the evidence." The young diplomat activated her device. Holographic displays appeared above each counselor's station, showing the same information simultaneously. Mathematical equations, prime number sequences, basic physics formulas, all of them arranged in patterns that any species capable of space travel would recognize as intentional communication. "These are the warning systems we placed at the boundary of our space," Taemin explained. 47 buoys spread across a spherical perimeter. Each one broadcasts the same message in mathematical language that any intelligent species can understand. The displays shifted, showing the translation of those mathematical patterns into words. "Stop. Unknown. Vessel detected. State your intentions. Await response. Do not proceed." Further, without permission, the message repeated in different mathematical formulas, each one saying the same thing in different ways to ensure clarity. There was no possible way to misunderstand it. "Every single one of your ships passed these warnings," Minji said, her voice shaking slightly with nervousness but growing stronger as she continued. Some ships passed 1 or 2 buoys and kept going. The Shreath ship passed 17. Not once did any vessel stop. Not once did any crew attempt to send a response and wait for acknowledgement. The holographic displays changed again, showing recordings from the buoys themselves. Alien ships passing by, sometimes slowing down as if noticing something, then continuing forward. The Shreath ship's path was particularly damning. It had clearly detected the buoys because it adjusted course to examine several of them, then it continued deeper into human space without waiting. "This is standard first contact procedure," Vreth insisted, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. "Species broadcast greetings as they approach. Initial contact is always made through direct presence." "That is your procedure," Taemin said. "Your rules. Your assumptions. You decided that your way of doing things should apply to everyone. You never asked if we agreed. You never waited to find out if we wanted contact at all." "Why wouldn't you want contact?" asked a small furry being from a species called the Porix. "We offer trade, technology, knowledge, culture. Why would any species refuse this?" "Because maybe we wanted to meet you on our terms, not yours," Taemin answered. "Because maybe we wanted time to prepare. Because maybe we wanted to make sure you were safe to invite into our home before opening the door." General Subin's image appeared on the main display screen, transmitted from Earth's Strategic Command. She was a stern-looking woman in a military uniform, her hair pulled back tightly, her eyes hard and calculating. "I am General Subin of Earth's Defensive Forces," she said without preamble. "While Ambassador Taemin discusses philosophy with you, I will discuss reality. For the past 5 years, humanity's entire military fleet has been operating on silent running protocols. Our ships are designed to be invisible to your sensors. Our stations are hidden. Even the exact location of our homeworld is classified information that none of your probes have successfully determined." The counselors shifted uncomfortably. Several began checking their own databases, trying to find information about Earth's location. The coordinates existed in their records, but when they tried to verify them through current scans, they found nothing. Just empty space where human activity should be. "This is impossible," said the Solkari arbiter Kel, though his tone suggested he knew it wasn't. "Our sensor networks cover this entire sector. We would detect any significant military presence." "You detect what we allow you to detect," Subin replied. "Every piece of information you have about humanity came from sources we chose to reveal. Every scan that found human activity found it because we let it be found. We have been watching you watch us. And we learned everything while you learned nothing." The implication hit the council like a physical blow. They had been the ones under observation. They were the test subjects, and they had failed without even knowing they were being tested. Minji pulled up more data. "For 3 years we monitored your council meetings. We translated your languages. We studied your cultures, your histories, your wars and alliances. We know which species are trustworthy, and which ones see first contact as an opportunity for exploitation. We know your military capabilities, your economic systems, your political structures. We know everything about you." "And what did you learn?" Kel asked quietly. The old reptilian seemed more thoughtful than angry, unlike many of his fellow counselors. Taemin took over the explanation. "We learned that you are intelligent and curious. We learned that most of you genuinely want peaceful relations. We learned that you have built something impressive here, a council where different species work together. But we also learned something troubling. We learned that you do not understand the word no, that you believe your desire for something gives you the right to take it, that you view other species as things to be studied and cataloged and brought into your system, not as equals who might have their own ideas about how first contact should happen. We came offering friendship." Vreth protested. "You came without asking permission," Taemin countered. "There is a difference. If I walk into your home without knocking, it doesn't matter how many gifts I bring with me. I am still trespassing. So what do you want?" asked the Porix counselor. "What are your demands for returning our people?" "We want acknowledgement," Taemin said simply. "We want every species represented here to formally recognize that entering another species' territory without permission is wrong. We want your council to establish new protocols for first contact that include consent from both parties. We want you to understand that just because you can go somewhere doesn't mean you should." "And if we refuse?" Vreth asked. His mandibles were clicking rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "Then your ships and crews will remain exactly where they are," Taemin replied calmly. Alive, comfortable, safe, sleeping, we can keep them that way indefinitely. Their life support is stable. Their health is being monitored. They are in no danger from us. The only danger they face is from what their own governments might do. The threat was clear even though it was never directly stated. If the Council sent military forces, those forces would have to fight knowing their own people were in human custody. And based on what Subin had just revealed, any military force would be fighting an enemy they couldn't see until it was too late. Kel raised his hand for silence. The ancient arbiter studied Timon for a long moment before speaking. "You are teaching us a lesson?" "Yes," Timon confirmed. "The same lesson you would teach to children who entered your home without permission. We are showing you consequences. We are demonstrating that actions matter. We are proving that you cannot simply do whatever you want just because you have the technology to do it." "This is humiliating," Breath said bitterly. "This is education," Kel corrected. "And it is a lesson we needed to learn. The Sulcari people learned it millennia ago through war. We destroyed 2 species and damaged 3 others before we understood that strength without wisdom is just brutality. Humanity is offering us the chance to learn through embarrassment instead of bloodshed. That is mercy, not cruelty." The council chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what Kel was saying. Humanity could have destroyed those 17 ships. They could have killed thousands of aliens. Instead, they captured them gently and kept them safe. They were proving they had both the power to hurt and the wisdom not to. "We were watching you," Taman said quietly. "We learned everything. You learned nothing. That should tell you something about who is ready for first contact and who is not." He turned and walked toward the exit, Minji following behind him. At the door, the ambassador paused and looked back one final time. "We will return tomorrow," Taimin said. "Perhaps by then, you will be ready to ask the question you should have asked 3 years ago." "Please, may we meet you?" 3 days after Taimin's ultimatum, the Chitauri made their decision. They would not wait. They would not ask permission. They would take back what belonged to them by force. Fleet Commander Rian watched the Chitauri warfleet assemble on his tactical display. 300 ships, each one bristling with weapons designed to crack planetary shields and burn atmospheres. This was not a diplomatic mission. This was an invasion force. "They're broadcasting their intentions openly," reported his tactical officer. "No attempt at stealth or surprise. They want us to know they're coming." "Of course they do," Rian said, leaning back in his command chair. "Fear is a weapon. They think if they show us enough force, we will surrender their people without a fight. They think we are cowards hiding in the dark." His bridge crew was calm despite the massive fleet heading their way. They had trained for this. They had prepared for this. Every human in the military had spent years waiting for the moment when the galaxy would test them. Now that moment had arrived. "Orders, Commander?" asked Captain Jiwan from her stealth ship positioned 3 systems away. Her vessel was one of 50 that made up the Silent Fleet, the core of humanity's defensive strategy. "Shadow them," Rian ordered. "I want every ship in the Silent Fleet tracking that armada. Stay invisible. Let them think they are coming to fight frightened primitives. Let them get comfortable in their certainty." The Chitauri fleet entered human space like a hammer smashing through paper. They didn't slow at the warning buoys. They didn't even acknowledge them. Vreth, commanding the fleet personally, broadcast a simple message on all frequencies. "Humanity will release our detained personnel immediately. You have violated galactic law by holding diplomatic envoys. You have 12 hours to comply before we begin military action. This is your only warning." Rian smiled without humor. 12 hours. How generous. Tactical, what's their current vector? They're heading straight for the coordinates where our defensive stations were detected 3 years ago, the tactical officer replied. They must have outdated intelligence. Those stations were relocated 2 years ago. Perfect. Let them waste time searching empty space. Meanwhile, we get into position. The Silent Fleet moved like ghosts through the darkness. 50 ships, each one invisible to Chitauri sensors. Each one crewed by humans who had been practicing these maneuvers for years. They spread out around the incoming fleet in a sphere formation, always staying outside detection range, always watching. Captain Jiwan studied the Chitauri ships on her screens. They were impressive in their own way. Massive vessels built for intimidation as much as combat. The Chitauri were a hive species, and their military reflected their collective nature. Every ship moved in perfect coordination with the others. No individual initiative, no creative tactics, just overwhelming force applied with mathematical precision. They fight like they think, Ji-won muttered to her crew, in straight lines. No imagination, no adaptation. They learned one way to wage war and never questioned if it was the best way. Should we be grateful they're not more creative? Her weapons officer asked. No, we should be sad for them. They're about to learn a very hard lesson. The Chitauri fleet spent 2 weeks searching for humanity's military presence. They swept through system after system, their sensors probing every planet, every moon, every asteroid. They found civilian stations with minimal defenses. They found mining operations. They found cargo ships moving between colonies. What they didn't find was Earth's fleet. Vreth grew increasingly agitated as the days passed. His hive consciousness was connected to every Chitauri on every ship, which meant his frustration was multiplied by thousands. The humans were mocking them, hiding from them, refusing to engage. They are afraid, Vreth announced to his fleet. They have no choice but to hide because they cannot stand against our might. We will find their homeworld. We will retrieve our people, and we will teach these humans their place in the galactic order. On day 15, the Chitauri fleet simply stopped. Every ship, every reactor, every weapon system, all of them went offline simultaneously. Life support switched to minimum power, keeping the crews alive but leaving them helpless in the void. 300 massive warships became 300 floating coffins, dark and dead in space. Panic spread through the Chitauri hive consciousness. What had happened? Where had the attack come from? Their sensors showed nothing. No energy weapons fire, no missiles, no explosions. Just sudden, complete, perfect shutdown of every primary system. Then the human fleet appeared. One by one, stealth systems deactivated. Ships materialized out of empty space, surrounding the disabled Chitauri armada in a perfect sphere. Not 50 ships, not 100. Over 900 vessels, each one armed and powered and aimed directly at the helpless Chitauri fleet. Captain Ji-won's ship was closest to Vreth's command vessel. She opened a communication channel, her voice calm and almost bored. Chitauri fleet, this is Captain Ji-won of Earth's Silent Fleet. You have been disabled by quantum entanglement disruptors designed by our scientist Jae-hee. Your weapons cannot fire. Your shields cannot activate. Your engines cannot restart. You are completely at our mercy. Vreth's response came through the hive mind, thousands of voices speaking as one. This is an act of war. You have attacked a military fleet. The Galactic Council will watch. Fleet Commander Rion interrupted, his face appearing on every Chitauri screen simultaneously. They will watch and learn the same lesson you are learning right now. You were dead for 14 days. We were within weapons range of your fleet from the moment you entered our space. We watched you search for us. We listened to your plans. We could have destroyed you at any moment, but we didn't. We let you live. Now answer a simple question. Will you ask permission now? The silence that followed was profound. Every Chitauri in the fleet felt it through their hive connection. Fear, shame, understanding. They had been hunted without knowing it. They had been prey thinking they were predators. How? Vreth finally asked. How were we blind to your presence? Because you assumed technology would save you, Rion explained. Your sensors are designed to detect ships built like yours. Energy signatures, heat, radiation, mass. Our ships are designed to not exist in those ways. We don't just hide our signatures. We eliminate them. Your sensors were looking for evidence of ships. We gave you evidence of nothing. Scientist Jae-hee's image appeared beside Rion's. She was a young woman with tired eyes and hands stained with work. The quantum entanglement disruptors work by targeting specific technologies, she explained. We studied your ships while your diplomats slept. We learned every detail of your systems. We designed weapons that could disable those exact systems without destroying them. You are alive because we chose to let you live. You are helpless because we are good at our job. What do you want? Vreth asked. His voice had lost all its arrogance. Now he just sounded tired and defeated. We want you to leave, Rion said simply. We are going to reactivate your engines. Only your engines. Your weapons will stay offline. Your shields will stay down. You will turn around and exit our space. When you reach the boundary, you will find your ships fully restored. You will be alive, unharmed, free to go, and you will remember this moment. You will remember that you came here to take something without permission, and instead you learned what it means to be powerless. This is humiliating, Freth protested weakly. "This is education," Captain Jiwan replied. "The same education we gave your diplomats. The same education we will give to anyone who thinks they can walk into our home uninvited. You have two choices. Learn from this experience and become better, or remain angry and stupid and ensure this happens again." The Chitauri fleet's engines came back online exactly as promised. Nothing else. Just enough power to limp back to the boundary. The human fleet maintained its sphere formation, escorting the defeated armada like shepherds guiding wayward animals back to their pen. It took 3 days to reach the boundary. 3 days of humiliation. 3 days of every Chitauri in the fleet feeling the weight of their failure through the hive mind. 3 days to understand what humanity had been trying to teach them from the beginning. At the boundary, exactly as promised, all systems came back online. The Chitauri fleet was restored to full functionality. Freth tested his weapons, his shields, his sensors. Everything worked perfectly. "We could attack now," suggested one of his subordinates through the hive connection. "Our weapons are back. We outnumber them 3-1. We could die," Freth interrupted. "Look at your sensors." Look carefully, the Chitauri did, and they saw what they had missed before. The human fleet wasn't 900 ships. It was almost 2,000. More vessels had appeared, materializing out of the dark once again, all of them in perfect attack formation. The message was clear. "We can see you. We are ready. Try it and see what happens. Go home." Rion's voice came through the communication channel one last time. "Tell the Galactic Council what you learned here. Tell them that humanity does not fear them. We do not need them. And we will not tolerate being treated like animals in a zoo to be studied whenever convenient. If they want to meet us, they know how to ask now. Please, may we meet you?" 3 simple words. Use them next time. The council chamber was different when it reconvened 1 week after the Chitauri fleet's retreat. The confidence was gone. The certainty had vanished. In its place was something humanity had been waiting 3 years to see. Humility. Ambassador Taemin stood in the center platform once again, but this time he was not alone. Behind him stood representatives from all 17 species whose crews still slept in human custody. They had been invited to attend this session. To witness, to understand, Dr. Hyunwoo walked to the front carrying a simple data tablet. The xenolinguist looked tired but satisfied. He had spent years developing what he was about to present. Years studying alien cultures and communication styles. Years preparing for this moment. "The consent protocols," Hyunwoo announced, projecting the document onto every screen in the chamber. "A new framework for first contact between species. Simple rules that any intelligent civilization can follow." The protocols appeared in text form, translated simultaneously into every language present. The rules were short, clear, impossible to misunderstand. 1. No species may enter another species' territorial space without explicit invitation. 2. First, contact must be initiated through neutral channels with mutual agreement on terms and location. 3. Observation of other species is permitted only from outside territorial boundaries defined by that species. 4. Any violation of these protocols will be considered an act of aggression and responded to appropriately. 5. All sentient species have the right to refuse contact for any reason or no reason at all. The chamber was silent as the counselors read and reread the protocols. They were so simple, so obvious, and yet none of them had thought to establish these rules before. They had simply assumed that contact was always positive, always wanted, always beneficial. Elder Kel was the first to speak. The ancient Sulkari arbiter stood slowly, his old bones creaking with the effort. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of millennia. "I support these protocols," Kel said, "and I apologize to humanity for my species' role in violating them. The Sulkari have existed for over 40,000 years. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have witnessed the birth of countless civilizations. And in all that time, we forgot something important. We forgot what it felt like to be the young species discovering we were not alone. We forgot the fear, the uncertainty, the need to understand before we trust." The old reptilian looked directly at Timon. "You taught us to remember. Through patience and restraint, you showed us what we had become. Thank you for not destroying us when you easily could have." Other counselors began to speak. One by one, they acknowledged their mistakes. The Naru admitted they had viewed first contact as a mathematical problem to solve, rather than a relationship to build. The Porix confessed they had been so eager to share their culture that they never considered others might not want it. Even the avian Shrieath, whose ship had been the first captured, sent a message of apology, but Vreth remained silent. The Chitauri counselor sat on his platform with his mandibles clenched shut. His shame was visible in every rigid line of his insectoid body. "Counselor Vreth," Taman said gently, "you have something to say." The Chitauri hive mind wrestled with itself. Pride fought against wisdom. Anger battled humility. Finally, Vreth stood. "We came to rescue our people," Vreth said slowly. "We came with force because we believed you were holding them hostage. We believed we were the heroes in this story, the saviors coming to free the captives from primitive captors." He paused, his whole body trembling. "We were wrong. We were wrong about everything. You were not primitive. You were patient. You were not hostile. You were defensive. You did not hold our people hostage. You kept them safe while their governments demonstrated whether they could be trusted with their return. And now?" Taman asked. "What have you learned?" "That silence is not weakness," Vreth replied. "That the species which does not speak first is not necessarily the species with nothing to say. That watching is not cowardice. It is intelligence. You knew everything about us while we knew nothing about you. That made you strong and us vulnerable. We will not make that mistake again." "Good," Taman said. "Then you are ready." At his signal, the chamber doors opened. Thousands of aliens walked in, looking confused and disoriented but unharmed. The 17 crews awakened from their long sleep, brought to the council to see what their captivity had accomplished. The reunion was emotional. Counselors rushed to greet crew members. Species-specific calls of relief and joy echoed through the chamber. Tears fell from eyes that had them. Bodies embraced in forms appropriate to their physiology. Through the chaos, Ambassador Kelrix of the Shrieath made his way to Taman. The avian diplomat's feathers were perfectly groomed despite his long sleep. His large eyes studied the human with newfound respect. "We thought we were bringing you civilization," Kelrix said quietly. "We thought we were the teachers." "You were," Taman replied. "You taught us exactly who you were. You taught us that the galaxy was not ready to meet us on equal terms. You taught us that we needed to establish boundaries before we could build bridges." "I am sorry," Kelrix said simply. "We should have asked." "Yes, you should have. But you didn't know better then." "Do you know better now?" "I do," Kelrix confirmed. "May I ask a question now?" "With your permission?" "You may. Why did you let us live? Your technology is clearly superior. You could have destroyed every ship that entered your space. You could have sent a message through violence that would have terrified the entire galaxy into leaving you alone. Why choose mercy instead?" Taman smiled. It was the first genuine smile any alien in the chamber had seen from him. "Because we learned from watching you. We learned that fear creates enemies, that violence breeds more violence, that the species who rule through strength alone eventually fall to stronger species. We wanted something different. We wanted respect. And respect cannot be taken by force. It must be earned through wisdom." The main doors opened again. This time a woman entered wearing formal diplomatic robes marked with Earth's unified government symbol. President Suyon walked with quiet confidence, flanked by a small security detail. She was younger than many expected for a planetary leader, but her eyes held the certainty of someone who had seen difficult truths and made hard choices. "Galactic Council," Suyon said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "I am President Suyon of Earth. I come here today to formally announce humanity's decision regarding galactic relations." Every being in the chamber held their breath. This was the moment that would define the future. Would humanity join the galactic community? Would they remain isolated? Would they become enemies or allies? "We will join your council," Suyon announced. "But not as subjects, not as students, not as the younger species learning from the elders. We will join as equals, as partners, as friends who chose to be here rather than being forced or manipulated into contact." She gestured to Hyunwoo. "Dr. Hyunwoo will work with your legal experts to formalize the consent protocols into galactic law. Ambassador Taman will establish our embassy here on Axiom Prime, and I will personally meet with each counselor to discuss trade, cultural exchange, and mutual defense treaties. But all of this happens because we chose it, because you learned to ask, Because you demonstrated that you could respect our boundaries. The council erupted in approval, not the automatic agreement of politicians following procedure, but genuine relief and gratitude. They had been given a second chance. They had learned their lesson without paying the ultimate price. Young diplomat Minji stood at the observation deck where this had all begun, watching as the first official alien ambassador approached Earth's solar system. The vessel was small, unarmed. It stopped at the boundary and broadcast a simple message in mathematical language. Greetings from the Sulkari people. We request permission to enter your space and establish diplomatic relations. We will wait for your response. Permission granted. Welcome to Earth, please. Proceed to coordinates. Provided. We are happy to meet you. The alien ship waited at the boundary for 10 full minutes before proceeding. Later, the ambassador would explain that they wanted to be sure. They wanted to demonstrate they had learned patience. They wanted to show that they understood the value of waiting for an answer instead of assuming one. In the council chamber, Taman stood with Kel, watching the proceedings as various species formalized their apologies and signed the new protocols. You could have destroyed us all, Kel said thoughtfully. Your technology is decades ahead of ours. Your strategic thinking is superior. You had every advantage. We still do, Taman replied. But advantage without wisdom is just bullying. We didn't want to be the species that everyone feared. We wanted to be the species that everyone respected. The species that showed it was possible to be strong and kind at the same time. You succeeded, Kel said. The galaxy will remember this moment. The moment when humanity taught us that silence can carry more meaning than shouting. That patience is not weakness but strategy. That consent matters even between civilizations. And what will you do with that knowledge? Taman asked. We will do better, Kel promised. We will teach younger species the way you taught us. With boundaries and consequences. With patience and wisdom. With respect for their right to say no.